Okay, so in today's video, we're going to take a look at part 7 of the CPE C2 Proficiency exam, the reading and use of English paper of that exam. Part 7 looks like this. In part 7, you'll see a series of 10 questions. And what you see in part 7 is that you have to read a text or several short texts that are divided up into sections A, B, C, D, sometimes A, B, C, D, and E. So it's normally 4 or 5 different paragraphs. Today we have just 4, A, B, C, D, and it is just one text, right? So let's have a quick look at the instructions. It says you are going to read an article about work-life balance. For questions 44 to 53, choose from sections A to D. The sections may be chosen more than once, obviously, because there's 10 questions and only 4 texts. Mark your answers on the separate answer sheet. Right, good. So I'm just going to go through this the way I would go through it as a student, because I think there's a lot of different strategies out there. Some people tell you to read the text first or whatever. I prefer to read the first question and then look at the texts and read through them, find the answer to that first question, and then I've got a feel for what is said in each text because I'm looking for something very specific in those texts. So I'm having to think about what they mean. I'm remembering words and sentences from those 4 texts, those 4 sections of the text. And I think it just makes it flow a lot better. So what are we going to do? So I'm going to set myself up here like this. You should be seeing the first question at the bottom of the screen, number 44, right? So it asks us, in 44, it asks us which section mentions involvement in decision-making leading to increased worker satisfaction. So what am I thinking about here? Involvement in decision-making. So we're talking about issues arising out of continuing work-life balance debate in the UK. So we're going to be debating about how important your personal social life is, getting the balance right between working as much as you can and making the most of your personal time, your free time, things like that. So this is an interesting one, I think, in number 44. It's the idea that if you have more control, more influence over your life, in this case, decision-making, so the way the company is going to go, it will make workers more satisfied, right? If they feel more personally involved in what's going on. So let's have a read of the first text and see if we can see anything to do with that. So here we go. A, it says, here in the UK, the continuous pressure of work and the relentless pace of change is impacting on people hard. And some people have reached the point where they want to live their lives, where they want their lives back, or at least are questioning how they can balance their work obligations with their domestic responsibilities. This includes new recruits. Employers also recognize, so this includes new recruits. Employers also recognize that in the battle to attract talented people, the tried and tested incentives of high salary, a medical plan, and a use of a company car will not pull in the high flyers anymore, right? So, okay, so not just the typical things that we would associate with a high-earning job necessarily make workers satisfied nowadays. Okay, all right. So far, nothing mentioned about decision-making, I don't think. But what exactly does work-life balance cover? In the recent past, stress was the word that best seemed to represent this general concern about too much work, too little life. Everyone understood it, since they experienced it at a personal level. But work-life balance has larger parameters. According to the Work Foundation, it is only achieved when an individual's right to a fulfilled life inside and outside paid work is respected as the norm. Okay, so having a fulfilled life, achieving what they want to achieve, doing something meaningful. No mention in decision making, I don't think so far. So, for example, work-life balance also takes into account the contribution that people want to make to the world in which they live. It includes the recognition that people have to manage family life, and it considers the impact that an excessive workload has on people's health. Yeah, I can't see anything there specifically about decision making, increasing worker satisfaction, no. B, we can point to the psychologist Abraham Maslow as the inspiration behind the work-life balance phenomenon. Maslow's hierarchy of needs model posits 5 ascending levels of need, each stage of which has to be satisfied in turn before the individual can move onwards and upwards. So at the base of the triangular model, individuals first have to satisfy their physical survival needs, while at the apex of the triangle is the self-actualized individual, whose priorities are personal growth and fulfillment. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so we're going from sort of eating, sleeping, oxygen, water, that kind of thing at the bottom, to this everything that you need that is essential to live, having been fulfilled, you then want to push yourself further. Yes, this is what Maslow spoke about, right? Okay, Maslow's work fused with a trend that also affected the concerns about work. Maslow's work fused with a trend that also affected the concerns about work-life balance. Having a job for life, which had been part of the bedrock values of traditional companies, simply could not be sustained by the dynamic marketplace of the 1990s and beyond. Yeah, I think in the past, certainly in the UK, that was the dream now, to get a job and stay there as long as you could, all your life. Whereas, things are a lot more dynamic nowadays. The old certainties evaporated, and employers realized that the new imperative was to ensure their employees became as innovative as the young entrepreneurs who were creating exciting new businesses of their own. As we talk about personal development, we talk about having to be innovative, like the entrepreneurs. Again, I can't see anything specifically talking about decision making. Yeah, they have to be more dynamic. They have to kind of adapt, maybe. Yeah, I can't see anything specific in B that refers to number 44. So let's have a look at C and D. C, the idea of a work-life balance has evolved over time. In the UK, there has been a long tradition of government-based initiatives that were its forerunners. However, with work-life balance, as it exists today, the influence of some corporate role models has had the most impact. Consider Ben & Jerry's, the US ice cream company. Since the 1980s, the firm has recognized that people wanted a different sort of work experience. It made a virtue of donating 7.5% of its pre-tax profits to philanthropy, an employee-led initiative. Okay. Engaging employees in such a way has helped both to improve motivation and drive innovation and productivity, making Ben & Jerry's into an extremely lucrative brand. Interesting. That does seem to be making some reference to involvement in decision making, right? It's an employee-led initiative, donating the 7.5% of pre-tax profits to philanthropy. And it improves motivation. So you could say that that's increasing worker satisfaction, perhaps. A recent survey identified more than 100 varieties of similar work-life initiatives. However, it is clear that the most important variable in work-life balance is the nature of the job itself. People want jobs with autonomy, right? Okay. Flexibility, meaning, managerial support, as well as a chance for advancement. That's the best one I've seen so far. I think initially I'm going to say C there. Let's just check D to make sure there's nothing specifically referring to decision making. But I think it's that sentence there, right? The employee-led initiative, right? The employee-led initiative and improving motivation seems quite similar to involvement in decision making and increased worker satisfaction, right? Okay, what about D? So, do work-life balance policies work? In the UK, there has been little doubt that they have had a positive impact. British Telecom, for instance, used work-life balance initiatives to both to draw more women into the workforce and to address the significant problem of losing staff. As a result, a staggering 98% of women returned after maternity leave, saving the organisation a tidy sum in recruitment and training. Okay, so giving a bit of flexibility, I guess, to the employees. Again, nothing really to do with decision making there, no? Okay, work-life balance is already a catch-all term for many different new policy developments, and the list is still growing. Many employees know that from direct experience that the world of work is changing. In a 24/7 society, they recognise their customers expect service around the clock, and they also know that they have to juggle their home responsibilities while stretching their schedules to meet customer expectations. Employees know this too. Employers know this too. Indeed, there is a raft of legal provisions governing work-life balance being driven by the European Union, and what the individual employee wants and the employer is set to deliver need not be in opposition. I think it's C. I think I have to go with C there in number 44. And yeah, I think we're going to have to move on to the next question now, as I've spent nearly 15 minutes looking at the first one. So let's have a look. The next question says, and this should go a lot quicker now, a term that was once used to refer to an inadequate work-life balance. A term that was once used to refer to an inadequate work-life balance. So let's go back to the top. So I have a feeling that this inadequate work-life balance may have been mentioned somewhere in the first paragraph. So here in the UK, the continuous pressure of a work-life balance impacting on people lies back questioning how the balance of obligations, domestic responsibilities. This includes new recruits. Employers also recognise the battle to attract talented and tested initiatives. Right down. But what exactly? Yeah. It's got inverted commas. It's stress, I think. No, stress is the term that was once used to refer to an inadequate work-life balance. Yeah, I think so. So 45, I'm going to go A. It says there, right in that sentence, it asks a question to the reader. What exactly does work-life balance cover? in the recent past. Stress was the word that best seemed to represent. Yeah, it's definitely A. No question about that. Okay, we can move on to number 46. A reduction in one business's expenditure caused improved staff retention. A reduction in one business's expenditure, so a company started spending less and it improved staff retention. Well, they were talking about, it was British Telecom, no? It was in the final paragraph that we read. There was something mentioned about that. So as a result, a staggering 98% of women returned after maternity leave. So that there to me is the reference to retaining staff, saving the organization a tidy sum in recruitment and training. So the tidy sum is the amount of money that they saved, right? A reduction in one business's expenditure caused by improved staff retention. Yes, it's definitely D. Yeah, of course, because they were able to retain more people, because they improved the work-life balance of their workers. It caused the company to. It allowed the company to save on hiring new people and training them. Yeah, they saved a tiny sum. A tidy sum. Yeah, absolutely not a tiny sum. A tidy sum, a very nice amount of money. Yeah, I think we can move on. Yeah, I think 46 is clearly D. Okay, so let's have a look at the next question. In 47, it says, a recognition among some employees of the necessity for longer working hours. Amongst some employees, the necessity for longer working hours. Yeah, I think this is in D as well. Because they talk about employers and employees recognizing certain things towards the end of this paragraph. It talks about, it says, many employees know, right? What do they know? Many employees know from experience that the world of work is changing. In a 24/7 society, they recognize that their customers expect service around the clock, and that they also know that they have to juggle their home responsibilities while stretching their schedules, right? Stretching their schedules to meet customer expectations. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. 47 is definitely D, yeah, as well, I would say. Okay, so let's move on to number 48. Changes in the world of work leading to competition between established and emerging companies. Changes in the world of work leading to competition between established, so old companies and new companies are in competition because of the way the world of work is changing. Let's scan through it. What can we see? Okay, so I can see something here, right, that mentions traditional companies, right? So it's like having a job for life, right? So I'm here. Having a job for life in B, which had been part of the bedrock values of traditional companies. So what traditional companies always had always assumed was very important, simply could not be sustained by the dynamic marketplace of the 1990s and beyond. The old certainties evaporated, and employers realized that the new imperative was to ensure their employees became as innovative as the young entrepreneurs who were creating exciting new businesses of their own. Changes in the world of work leading to competition between established and emerging companies. Yeah, I mean, that looks good. I can't see anything in A. I don't know if it says competition, but it's sort of like a different way of understanding the workplace, right? The old certainties evaporated, and employers realized that the new imperative was to ensure employees. Okay. Okay, right, yes, became as innovative as the young... Right, so they understood, right, even these old companies understood that they had to be as innovative as the young entrepreneurs. Their workers had to be as innovative as the young entrepreneurs who were creating new businesses. So I guess there was competition in that sense. They realized they had to emulate these younger businesses in some way, right, by making their workforce more innovative. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, great. I think it is B. Yes, I'm going to go with B there. Okay, let's move on to number 49. The statutory regulation of work-life balance ideas. I think there's something mentioned about the European Union. I think it was towards the end. So let's go down. I think they mentioned the European Union. Yeah, again, towards the bottom of paragraph D. If we take a look here, it says the regulation, the statutory, so sort of the legal regulation of the work-life balance ideas. It says, Indeed, there is a raft of legal provisions governing work-life balance. Yeah, governing the work-life balance. They're regulating it, being driven by the European Union. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's clear. I remember that immediately drew my attention to D. Yeah, I think it's D. Don't think there's any question about that. Okay, let's move on to number 50. It says certain staff benefits no longer being seen as adequate by potential employees. I think that's... I'm sorry, I'm using memory more than anything here, but certain staff benefits no longer being seen as adequate by potential employees. I think that's B again. No? Or was it something about having a company car and all of that? No, it's A, sorry. Certain staff benefits no longer being seen as adequate by potential employees. So yeah, it talks about employers also recognize that in the battle to attract talented people, the tried and tested initiatives, high salary, medical plan, and use of a company car will not be enough. Are no longer being seen as adequate. Well, no longer enough. Will not pull in the high flyers anymore. Yeah, they won't be able to get new potential employees. Yes, it's very clearly A. Yeah, okay, 50 is A. So we've got 3 more. So it says a change in how work-life balance develop developments are generated. A change in how work-life developments are generated. I think this might be the one where they mention Ben and Jerry's, no? So it's possibly, no? So there's this idea that it's employee-led. Does it say that that is a change? So since the 1980s, yeah, so it's here, I think. Since the 1980s, this firm has recognized that people wanted a different sort of work experience. It made the virtue of donating 7.5% of pre-tax profits. It's an employee-led initiative. So a change in how work-life balance developments are generated. So this donating of the money to philanthropy, this idea of giving them some involvement in an initiative, it's an employee-led initiative, engaging employees in such a way has helped improve the motivation and drive innovation and productivity. So it's a change in how we look at the work-life balance, right? You've got to give them sort of like a sensation that they're involved in the decision making. No, they can use their initiative. That improves motivation and productivity. Yeah, I think 51 is C. Okay, we'll move on. 52. A way of defining what work-life balance involves. Is this about Maslow? I think so. I think it's going to be Maslow's hierarchy now. There's a way of defining it. So I think in the first paragraph, they're kind of talking about traditional ideas of what a work-life balance was and how it's changing. And then we look at a way of defining it. So I think with 52, I think we're going to have a look at what it says in B. So in B, it says we can point to psychologist Abraham Maslow. Here's an inspiration between the work-life balance phenomenon. Well, I mean, he talks about ascending levels of need, right? So he's not really talking about work-life balance. He wasn't trying to define it, rather that his work could be the inspiration behind the work-life balance. So maybe the definitions, maybe it's in the first. A way of defining what work-life balance involves. So before it was stress, right? People spoke about stress. Okay, yes. Work-life balance has larger parameters. According to the Work Foundation, it is only achieved, okay, this sounds like a definition, when an individual's right to a fulfilled life inside and outside paid work is respected as the norm. That sounds like a definition. So yeah, I think with 52 we can say it's A. All right. Last question then. It says they're ringing again. Yes. Anyway, so back to this. A theory as to what people require out of life. Okay, so maybe this is B. No? Is this B? Yeah, it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I think, no? So, yeah, surely this one's B, right? A theory as to what people require out of life. The theory posits 5 ascending levels of need. So at the base of the triangular model, individuals first have to satisfy their physical survival needs, while at the apex of the triangle is the self-actualized individual whose priorities are personal growth, etc., etc. I think it's B, right? Okay, so you should be able to see my answers on screen there. let's see if I've got them all right. I've got them written down here. So let's go. Okay, so today's wasn't the best editing job I've ever done, I don't think. I cut off the end of that video somehow. I didn't record it. I didn't press record, basically. But you should be able to see on screen now my answers and the correct answers, and as you'll see, they all match up quite nicely. And yeah, it was a dull video today, wasn't it? It wasn't a fun video to make or to watch, but we do have to go through all of the parts of the exam and look at strategies, because they're all equally important, all of the exercises. But you know, that's what this channel's about. You know, we're trying to get people through their Cambridge exams, particularly the higher level stuff, or not. You know, maybe if you click the blue button under this video, if you've got that far, because God, I know, yeah, you've got the chance to get some exclusive content, that you've got the chance to interact with me personally by becoming a member on the channel and supporting the channel and helping us grow here. Anyway, I'm definitely finished for today. That was not fun. Goodbye.